So this is probably going to be another short one this week. Because what the fuck do I even say about this episode? No, seriously, what the hell do I even say about this thing? In many ways, I could see somebody saying, "Well, why didn't you just combine it with the next one?" But at the same time, I'm just like, ugh. So this is the one with the, as I said last week, the most pointless fucking duel in the whole show. Now, some people could come back at me with the argument of, but Blue Wolf, this is Atem facing his darkness, right? It's not actually what it looks like, which is, Yugi versus Atem. Here's the thing. I don't think this duel needed to happen, regardless of whether or not this is Yugi versus Atem or Atem versus his own darkness. Both scenarios don't work for me. Because here's the thing about this episode. In fact, you know what? I don't even really need. I don't even really need my notes for this one. Ironically enough, because I know exactly what I want to talk about with this episode. The problem with this episode, this the biggest problem with this episode, by far, is the fact that it double, triples, and quadruples down with Yugi literally saying word for word that Atem is arrogant and prideful. Literally saying, deep down, you are arrogant. You have massive amounts of pride. You can't stand losing. The problem is that hasn't really been established. Some people have bent over backwards to try to retroactively say that shit like, Clash in the Coliseum was pride on Atem's part and shit like that. Except it kind of wasn't when you think about it. Because, again, that's the thing about this show. And they don't do anything with it, is the problem. And, which is funny, because I feel like I've been saying that a lot. But it keeps being true. They don't do anything with the premises with the premise that they, with the premises, yes, plural, the premises, whatever. The multiple premise points that they have, right? Atem needing to confront his inner pride. Well, this isn't even a freaking story about Atem confronting the fact that he's prideful. This is the story where Atem, him out of fucking nowhere and for no other reason than because the plot requires it, activates a card that fucks his mind over, and then that somehow taps into his inner darkness. Again, this is why I harp on the fact that the animation has backstabbed the dialogue. Because, again, we don't see enough examples of this. Because, again, if we had seen examples of different characters overcoming it, maybe even a couple of people that use the power of the Orichalcos and don't turn into puppy strangling maniacs the second they fucking activate the damn thing, I'd be a lot more okay with it. So, for example, let's have some pure innocent soul who activates the thing and doesn't turn into a puppy kicking maniac. Oh yeah, her monsters gain the boost, but that doesn't mean she suddenly jumps to, I'm gonna launch all my monsters like an asshole at you. And that's the problem. That's the problem with this arc in a nutshell. It doesn't know what it wants to do. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It thinks it does. It thinks it has something to say. It thinks it's being insightful, but it doesn't say anything. I mean, it comes that fucking close to exploring its theme, and then it just fucks off and lets the plot take over again. And it's so frustrating because I see what they're trying to do. I see it. It's right there. There. Their greatness is staring them in the face. But it's not working. The glory slips past their fingers. And that sucks. Man, I jumped right into the ranting. Holy crap. But again, I have nothing to say about this episode. I could talk about, I could talk about the fact that Atem is more apologetic in the dub versus confused in the sub. That really pissed me off too. Like, no. Like, I'm sorry. It feels like the dub is actually trying to give Atem a character arc. Like, actually trying to give Atem a character arc. You know? Whereas the sub is just making him mopey, which is just. Ugh. Mm. And again, I'm watching these side by side, so you can't even accuse me of being like, well, you forgot what was happening in the dub, Blue Wolf. No, I'm watching each episode individually. I watch the dub, then I watch the sub. Right? You're not gonna. I don't have such a bad memory that I'm gonna forget what happened in the dub 20 minutes later. Give me a break. Sorry. Just, ugh. I know I keep getting hung up on that. Nobody has accused me of being nostalgia blindness when it comes to the dub. Nobody has accused me of that. So I should shut the fuck up about that. But this episode actually kind of pissed me off a little bit. It's not a bad episode. I would argue it's an average episode, a C rank. But oh, God. This is probably no. You know what? There is no probably. This is the most pointless duel in the whole fucking show. And I include stuff like the Johnny Steps duel in that. Because what is accomplished by this duel? Oh, believe in yourself and the people who believe in you. And that's all Atem needed. I'm sorry, you didn't earn the "you're not alone" speech. I'm sorry, you didn't earn it. Earn it, Domark. You didn't. And that's kind of the thing I lament about this thing because, again, this is episode 19 of this arc. We are 19 episodes into this arc as of this point. 19 episodes are done, okay? And the next episode is literally the end of the halfway mark of this arc. And yet, it feels like, it almost feels like we should be. How do I phrase this? I feel like we should have been farther. No, how do I phrase this? I feel like we should have set up for the whole arc. Like, this is how I feel like this arc should have been, okay? Let me just lay it out for you, okay? First 10 episodes of the arc, we establish the premise, right? Okay, so we establish the Orichalcos, we establish what it can do, we establish its connection to Atlantis, and we establish Doma and the organization, nation, and blah 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 blah. Right? Right? We establish all of that crap. Which, to its credit, edit as I flip back here for a sec here. Which, to its credit, I would say the first 3 episodes were actually doing that properly. We're doing that properly. But the problem was then in episode 4 of this arc was the creator returns. Which, okay, that could still be a setup, but then we started jumping into the Doma Musketeers fighting us. We immediately jumped into Imelda with Deja Duel. Then we jumped into fucking My Over with My Freaky Valentine. And then immediately after that, we jumped to Fate of the Pharaoh. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Too fucking soon. We should have been talking about Fate of the Pharaoh right here, at this point in the arc. Not 10 episodes ago, give or take. You know? Now, I know from your perspective that was only like, what, 4 videos ago? 4 videos ago, but still. Think about how much time was covered by that. Again, I feel like we jumped into the big duels too soon. What's funny is that this arc is 40 episodes. Okay, I want to stress that from beginning to end, the Doma arc is 40 episodes. I feel like the Doma arc wastes way too much of its time. Hell, I could actually make an argument that this could have been 2 seasons. This arc could have been 2 seasons. Now, some people would be cocking an eyebrow like, Jesus, he's just 2 full seasons. That's longer than Battle City was, because keep in mind, half of, 2/3 of season 3 was the virtual world arc, which meant we had basically a season and a third, and you're saying 2 full seasons? 80 episodes? Well, maybe not 80 episodes. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let me walk that back. Not 80 episodes. 67 episodes, I would argue, would be the perfect length. Perfect length for it. Now, you might be tempted to ask, 67 episodes? That seems a little random, Blue Wolf. Why that number specifically? So the KC Grand Prix can be the 13 episodes it is. Wait, is the KC Grand Prix 13 episodes? Give me a second. This will not take me long, and because I have Crunchyroll up, because I was going to do that. Let's see. Yes, it's part 14. Oh, excuse me, 14. So 66 episodes. Excuse me, 66 episodes. Would be the perfect length. Because then the 66 episodes, now you might be tempted to say, well, why would you keep, KC Grand Prix even in there, Blue Wolf? Because KC Grand Prix would be something I would actually do more with, right? I would actually utilize those 14 episodes a little bit better than KC Grand Prix does. Instead of wasting all this fucking time of let's fuck around Joey in multiple episodes. I would actually go ahead and just kind of, play into that a little bit. Make a breather arc. Let Joey and Mai air out their fucking dirty laundry and get that out of there. Maybe even have a discussion between Yugi and Kaiba about pride and arrogance and inner darkness and all this other shit, and just kind of recover, right? Hell, you can literally have a character-centric episode where the characters just sit down and just talk to each other. It would be perfect, because then you're just airing out all your dirty laundry and just being done with it. There it is. We lay out all the cards on the table. We get all of our grievances out. Get all of our misgivings with each other out. Get it all out in the open, and then bam, there you go. Character development. Because now we understand, now we come together for a more of an understanding, and we don't need to have this, we don't need to have Siegfried waste 14 episodes of our time, because he's technically only wasting 13 episodes of our time, because we had that episode to actually air out all of our dirty laundry. Hell, even include Mai in the KC Grand Prix, so that way she can duel and then her character arc during the KC Grand Prix is to go ahead and rediscover the joy of dueling, right? If you want to have Leon still defeat Mai, okay, fine, whatever. He defeats Mai, he gets the Golden Castle of Strongberg and faces Yugi, so we can still have Sinister Secrets be how it is. I'd be okay with that, because then we're actually actively making this arc work. Or, we could just waste everybody's fucking time like we end up doing. And that's the big problem that I have with this episode. This episode feels like a waste of time. Because we don't explore Atem being arrogant. What we needed, in my blunt opinion, to really make this arc actually fit and work and would help make Dawn of the Duel all the more fucking potent, in my opinion, by the way, is have Atem have the real, have Atem discuss this, the whole pride thing with the real Yugi. Have him sit down with Yugi, and just be like, Aibo, we need to talk about this. We need to get all of it out. We need to air out all of the dirty laundry, and we need to start moving forward. And hell, you don't even really need to do much with Yugi in that hypothetical scene, because again, it's Tem confessing and apologizing. Hell, you literally could make an entire episode that is just Atem apologizing to Yugi. And I imagine that a lot of people, even the ones that don't like Atem, would actually sit there and be like, damn, you actually admitted that that you were kind of full of shit. And then, oh, would you look at that? There's actual character development. Because that is one of the grievances I actually have with DM in a nutshell. I don't actually see character arcs for characters. I know some people claim Kaiba goes through one. I suppose you can kind of say that, but I feel like they don't really show it off. And that is the other part of that's the other problem with this. I feel like we needed more, I feel like we needed more, just everything, I feel like this needed more time to stew. This arc feels rushed. That's the problem with this arc in a nutshell. It's 40 episodes, but which simultaneously feel rushed and padded at the exact same time. Because again, what's funny is I can literally only name. No, sorry. I was gonna say only one duel, but no. So far, I can name only 2 duels that have actually been the perfect length. And I mean that sincerely. Only 2. Who? The first is the obvious one, Deja Duel. I actually think, Imelda pretending to be Pegasus, and then Imelda himself. I like that, though. I think that was the perfect length, right? One episode has him dealing with Toon World, the other one has him dealing with Gorlag and all that shit. I'm okay with that. And then the other one that I actually think was the perfect length was actually On the Wrong Track from last week. That was a perfectly judged thing. Wait, and speaking of Deja Duel, did I actually? Oh, well, I guess thanks to the sub, there's actually 3 that have hit A rank this season, but 3 multi-parters that have hit A this season, but whatever. The point here is that, again, I feel like, how do I phrase this? I feel like the themes were just not explored in this thing. I don't feel like we explored them. It feels like we start to explore them, but then the plot derails us, which is ironic given how Tem and Anzu have found themselves in this place to begin with. But you get my point. And again, I feel like having him face. I feel like having him face Yugi and have Yugi be the embodiment of his inner darkness is equally stupid. I feel like what should have happened here is we should have had a doppelganger. Like an actual doppelganger. The darkness in his heart manifests as the evil pharaoh he fears he was. I feel like that would have been better. And then have him, have him talk up about pride and all that shit, and all this shit, and maybe even have Tim come to the realization of, no, I'm not that evil. I'm not that awful. You know? But whatever. All in all, I got to be honest with you. I know I gave this thing a rank of C, but I don't. This is not an episode I will ever watch again in either version, admittedly. But again, if I had to pick a preference, like an actual thing, like if I have to watch this episode, I would rather watch it dubbed. This is one that I'm only going to watch in the sub for completionist's sake. Because this episode is so goddamn pointless because the answer is so fucking blatant and cliche that I'm just to the point where I throw up my hands and I'm like, you didn't earn it, episode. You didn't fucking earn it. My opinion. I know I've been all over the place this week, but again, sorry. But again, that's this episode in a nutshell. This episode gave me nothing. Sorry. Just the mic here. This episode gave me nothing. And I don't like it. I hate it. I hate this episode. I kind of low-key hate this episode. Even though this episode is not a bad episode. It's not. It's not a bad episode, but this is the most painfully average episode because on the one hand, it's an average episode. It's not actually that bad, but it pisses me off. And I have a hard time articulating why. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that I've got these 3 PS1 games that I recently bought. Sitting on my desk, and for at least another, for at least another 5 days, I'm not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna be able to enjoy them. But that's random first world problems that you don't care about. Look, I'm gonna be real with you. I hate this episode. Admittedly, but not because it's bad. Because I lament what it could have been. Imagine if we had actually had multiple episodes. Imagine if this was episode okay, if we want to stick to 40 episodes, imagine if this was episode 25 of 40. Right? Now you might be thinking, whoa, Blue Wolf, that would only give us 15 episodes. Yeah. Shrink a Duel with Darts. It doesn't need to be 6 fucking episodes. Shrink Fighting for a Friend. That doesn't need to be 5 episodes. From memory. I could be wrong. Grappling with a Guardian, I think I remember that episode. That episode you could shrink down to 2, my opinion. I think Grappling with a Guardian is only a 3-parter because Fate of the Pharaoh was a 3-parter. My opinion. What else? Flight of Fear. Ooh, does Flight of Fear need to be 2 episodes? I guess we'll find out in a few weeks, but because we've still got Reliving the Past next week, and then we've got Deck of Armor the week after that. So, yeah, like I said, we'll find out in 3 weeks. Also, you really, really didn't need the Spirit Quest to be. Well, okay, the Spirit Quest being 2 episodes actually makes a large degree of sense, so never mind, I guess. But you definitely didn't need deck of armor. You didn't need Valen fucking whipping out his dick to try and impress Mai. I'm sorry. You know? Especially considering that's all Duke and Rebecca amount to in this arc. Getting their ass kicked by Valen. Spoilers. But whatever. All I know is I've been rambling about this stupid episode for too long. This episode is not... I've never agreed with the Pride angle, and I feel like this episode didn't make me feel like the Pride angle works. And that was this episode's job, to be blunt. Make me understand that, make me feel that it's accurate, that the angle works. And it didn't. It failed. Sorry for ranting your ear off. I'm probably gonna put down, and I'm probably just gonna edit this thing today. Say fuck it, we'll get two edited and uploaded today. Hey, that's what we'll do. Because I really don't feel like watching another one of these episodes today. Because this one drove me nuts. I liked On the Wrong Track. That one was fine. It was good, even, you know. This one just makes me lament the Doma arc. Because I'm gonna... Here's my hot take on the Doma arc, and I'll mention this at the end too. The Doma arc is the worst pre-Arc 5 Yugioh arc ever. Now, I say pre-Arc 5 because I'm super unfamiliar with Arc 5, right? So I guess I should say pre-Zexal, right? Of the pre-Zexal era, the worst arc by far is this one. And everything I've heard about Zexal says, Zale, Zexal, whatever. I'm just gonna keep calling it Zexal. Fuck it. And everything I've heard about Zexal says that there's a lot of really good stuff in Zexal, right? Because again, I think it's only the dub that fucked that one over. I don't actually think it's bad. I don't know if I would call it a bad show. I mean, obviously, because I haven't gone through it yet. And I haven't gone through and analyzed it yet. And I won't for, for a good few hundred episodes yet. Because I've still got the 60 episodes of this show left. Then I've got like the 180 of GX, the 180 of 5Ds. Which, if I'm accurate on that, that is a good 300 episodes left before I can even start touching Zexal. How's that for irony? Which is funny because, yeah. Anywho, I suppose that's going to do it for me for this week. I'll finally shut the fuck up for this week. Oh yeah, by the way, those Sentai mooks that I mentioned last week, the Orichalco soldiers, yeah, they're finally showing up next episode, because in the sub, the next episode is literally called Orichalco Soldier. Yeah, you kind of failed at being a tokusatsu show there, Yu-Gi-Oh! Even though it's going to lean so hard into that train fighting for a friend. Fighting for a friend might as well be a tokusatsu five-parter. Anyways, I'm just going to chop off. I hope you've at least tolerated my thoughts. I am Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walkers, and I'm signing out. Have a good one. Duel standby.